Good evening, Grinders. Welcome to Monday Showdown Live, which is not even a showdown. It's a two-game slate, but there's still a million to be made. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blender Ed, joined by STL Cards, Justin Van Zuden. I wish we could just get a two-game slate on Monday night, like all the time, so we don't... But still, even on a two-game slate, we still have to go and find, like, where's that 3% owned guy that could win me the million, because it's a $10 contest on DraftKings with like a million entries, and you're probably going to have to find that guy.
Yeah, only 267,647.
Oh, easy! Only that many! Oh, that's easy.
that might change your strategy a little, but yeah, this is going to be an interesting night. Getting the second game added on there has kind of changed the way this slate has been laid out, and salary really isn't an extremely difficult thing to navigate with some injuries on these two games tonight too. So it is going to bring back some of the normal showdown elements of potentially leaving salary on the table. Even though we've got two games tonight, people are going to be less inclined to want to leave salary on the table. So I still think that's a viable thing in these top-heavy GPPs, and it'll be interesting to see how these games shake out tonight.
And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, move your mouse around, click on anything you'd like. Feel free to chat with us. We have the chat popped out here if you have any questions during the show. So we got like a 7:05 lock, and then they moved the other game back to 9. So we will have some, overlap between the games. Notable inactives for the first game, because we don't have it for the late game. So for the first game, Damian Harris is going to be active. Jacoby Myers won't be. And then with Gunnar Alzalu, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ajelski, whatever. He's probably just going to play special teams, but maybe he'll come out as a fourth wide receiver. But no one else on the Chiefs. And then the main thing is, are we just assuming Devontae Adams is out based on his tweet? Because technically he's still questionable.
Yeah, the fact that it's deleted makes you wonder if it was a little bit, now all of a sudden everyone just assumes they had him pull it for PR reasons or whatnot. But I think everyone is assuming that he's out. I believe the Packers do have a bye week next week, so it would surprise me if he plays, but it's not set in stone yet as far as anything other than his salty since deleted tweet from this morning. So definitely still got to keep an eye on that to make sure.
So I mean, that's the biggest thing is that Adams is out, Lazard is out, and now we got a Packers team with barely any wide receivers. And Steve Josephson, even in chat, is threatening. He won't hit the like button unless we could tell him why Shepard jumped over Malik Taylor on the depth chart. I'm not even sure if there is a depth chart at this point for the Packers receivers. I think it's more likely that Darius Shepard plays the slot, and like MVS really doesn't, and Malik Taylor. I mean, they may have Jamal Williams or Tyler Ervin playing the slot. I mean, they run a lot of 12 personnel because Mercedes Lewis is also out. So they don't even have tight ends. So you're going to see a lot of Robert Tonyan, maybe Jace Sternberger. So, I mean, can you make sense out of what's going to happen with both Adams and Lazard out? Because I could definitely see them running two running backs. Because they played like Jones almost as a wide receiver. Like they could play Williams in the backfield or Irvin on the slot and switch them around, use motion, and Jones could just go out for just normal wide receiver type routes.
Yeah, they'll do that plenty. I mean, Irvin's capable of catching passes too. Jones had 8 targets against the Lions a couple of weeks ago. So I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of 3 wide receiver sets because that's all they really have is 3 wide receivers, assuming Adams doesn't play. So be careful about being super excited about Taylor or Shepard. The Packers could have done something about their wide receiver depth issue in the draft or the offseason. They chose not to, but now they're probably wishing that they had with St. Brown and Lazard, who looked to be a breakout candidate with all their other injuries, and then he goes down himself. So it's going to be a mixed bag. They're gonna rotate bodies in and out, and I don't think that there's any one primary uh, you know, 3K crapper that you want to go after for the Packers. Certainly, Valdez-Scantling is the guy that everyone's going to look to, and he'll be on the field a lot. So he feels like the safest of the bunch, but it's a pretty decimated unit. Yet the Packers are still projected for 31 points tonight, so they're gonna come from somewhere.
And then the other messed up kind of cluster F type of situation is always the Patriots' backfield because Sony Michel is inactive. Damian Harris is now active, but they also have what J.J. Taylor, Rex Burkhead, James White. We have to with James White back now. We have to assume that. I mean, based on the spread, I mean the Chiefs are like 10, 11 point favorites. So my attitude with the running backs is that in that predicted game script, obviously it could go the other way. That you'd be more concentrated on like White or Burkhead, like more receiving type backs than trying to find the guy that punches it in the end zone because it could be this is a game where the Patriots never get the opportunity to punch it in the end zone, like from the 1 yard line. Like who gets that carry? That trying to guess. I don't. To me, it's almost not important. If anything, I would say Burkhead, but if Taylor or Harris showed up with a touchdown, I just don't think all those guys. I think most all those running backs don't have ceilings. Like you're playing guys for less than 10 points. I think James White probably has a little bit higher because of his passing, his pass catching upside. But like I'm not thrilled about figuring this out. I don't have many of the Patriots running backs in my builds.
Yeah, I think Burkhead. I mean, we've got Burkhead as the most popular, and the box score watchers will like him because of last week. Caught 7 balls against the Raiders, so
Yeah, but James
he's the
White was
guy that.
out. I mean, like, do people
No,
not
I know.
realize
That's why I'm
that?
saying he's the guy that I am not that high on because we've got him as the highest owned of the bunch, and now White is back, and Harris. If the Patriots fall way behind in this game, that spells trouble for him. So I do like, especially in tournaments, I like White the most of the three. Um, but like you said, it's just these guys just eat into each other's production so much, and it's really a guessing game trying to figure out who's going to be on the field. It's just not all that exciting to try to target these Patriots running backs.
So, I mean, it's obvious that the top two, probably the top two plays in the entire slate, are both at running back. We're going to see most lineups. I would say probably at least 3/4 of the lineups in these contests having Aaron Jones and Clyde Edwards-Helaire in their running back slots. And most people will probably play wide receiver in a flex. I mean, the other options would be like Gurley, those Patriots running backs, and then you're getting to backup running backs. Are you making any lineups that have uh, multiple of the same team in the lineup? Because I think that the most interesting play at running back to me are the running backs that are not Aaron Jones on the Packers, such as Williams and Irvin, because I think that we may be able to see. I mean, we've seen it with Aaron Jones that sometimes he just plays games and only gets 60% of the snaps because they like Jamal Williams. But also, we may see just a lot of two running backs out there, even if they're lining up as a wide receiver, that many people are going to create a group of like only one of them. And to get slightly different, why not take two? Because because Williams and Irvin are cheap enough that if they get me 10 points, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think you can do it with the Packers guys. I probably won't do it with the Patriots guys. I just don't think there's enough production to go around on a team with a team total of 19, particularly if they fall behind. I mean, I'm not really inclined to try to play Burkhead and White together. I guess you could, but I think you could do it with Jones and Williams or Jones and Irvin. Irvin would be the super risk reward candidate tonight. With Atlanta, I don't really see it. With the Chiefs, I don't really see it. With the Patriots, I don't really see it. So if you're playing two running backs from the same team, it probably would only be with the Packers for me.
Right, and me, I'm playing the angle of I'm going low on Gurley, and I'm playing not a lot, but I mean he's projected to be 2% owned, but I'm going to be playing some Brian Hill, catching passes out of the backfield because Gurley's snap share has gone down and down every game. And if Gurley's going to come in at like 20, 30% owned, He has the higher touchdown equity, sure. But I mean, if Brian Hill's going to be sub 5%, and they have to play 3 touchdowns behind or something like that could be the guy. And I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, on these 2-game slates for the large field GPPs, you have to find that type of guy. You have to build all your lineups with one of those that types of guys. And it doesn't have to be all of them. But Brian Hill is kind of in my pool. And the same thing could be said with Tyler Ervin. I got him in 5 out of 100 lineups. And it's like, maybe he's the guy. But I'd like Damian Harris. Like, I have him in 0, and if he beats me, then so be it. I just think they have too many people there. Him and J.D. Taylor. Like, if they beat me, then I lose. I'd rather take. I'm targeting more of the Packers Falcons game than the Chiefs Patriots game.
I mean, that's fair. I think most people are going to do that. I am surprised that the Packers are still favored by a touchdown. Look, I know the Falcons have blown 3-score leads the last 2 weeks, but they are doing something to get those 3-score leads. They got Julio back tonight. Julio's had some huge games against the Packers, and the Packers have nobody at receiver. So it surprises me that the Falcons are still 6-point dogs in this game. I think more of that is a reaction to the leads that they've blown. But again, they're doing something to get ahead in these games. They just need to figure out how to close. And I know their defense isn't great, but you've got a defense now that is going to have to stop MVS and Darius Shepard and Malik Taylor and Robert Tonyan as the top pass catchers for the Packers. So, I mean, I know Atlanta's not great, but I think they can give the Packers a game tonight.
And then obviously the top offensive players on the game in the slate is the Chiefs. And with how soft the pricing is, I mean, like MVS is 4,900. Like, the Packers receivers don't cost that much. I mean, even the Falcons receivers, Ridley's 6,900. Like, Tyreek Hill's 6,900. Kelsey's 6,500. You're going to see a lot of lineups jamming in Chiefs guys. If you had to choose between like a Hill Kelsey build or just one of them, like, I'm leaning towards, like, I have a couple of them. It just, to me, it's very hard with the ownership that, like, a Chiefs onslaught is the winning lineup in the slate. Even, I mean, if the Chiefs could put up 35 points, and that still may not get there, because just like the prices are so expensive that you're not going to be able to afford any of the Falcons or Aaron Jones in that process.
Yeah, they are, a little difficult to fit in all of them together. I mean, Hill worries me a little bit, given the fact that if the Chiefs do win this comfortably, if he doesn't make a big play in the first half, his ceiling is a little bit more limited than usual tonight. And I'm not saying that you can't play him, but when you consider that I think Kelsey maybe has a little bit higher of a floor in this matchup, and also the positional nature of tight end, I would probably prioritize Kelsey a little bit more than Hill. But you mentioned it. I mean, everyone's going to have CEH. Everyone's going to have Hill. Everyone's going to have Kelsey. Mahomes is going to be the most popular quarterback. And you can play them all together, but then you're going to have to hit those right, 3K
Tyler Ervin, let's go. Tyler Ervin, double touchdown game.
Ervins.
Let's do it.
So I'm probably a little underweight on Hill based on the function of how I've built my lineups.
Matt Smith in the YouTube chat is questioning if I have hair, and I do. I gotta appease the fans out there to make sure they know that I actually have hair under there. On the Patriots side, Mahomes probably the highest owned quarterback. I'm under on Mahomes. I've Ryan and Rodgers and all that. Brian Hoyer is, I mean, who's playing Brian Hoyer? Because, like, I'm barely even playing Brian Hoyer, and I'm looking to make weird lineups, and he's still only in 3 out of 100 because you have to leave like 17,000 on the table in order to stack the Patriots. On the Patriots side of the ball, I mean, my concern on the Patriots side of the ball is number one, they have the tendency to spread out stuff, and they're such big underdogs that like is this all just garbage time stuff? I mean, you would have to think Edelman at 5,300 is like he's going to have to be out there to help Hoyer. I mean, like he's going to have to be out there. I mean, Harry, you can't trust Harry, but he's a big body that, just beat a zone in 6 yards and he's there. I mean, what do you think the game plan is? I mean, you have to expect Belichick's game plan with Hoyer at quarterback is to try. I think they're going to be extremely run heavy, and they're going to have 4 running backs. Like they're going to try to keep Mahomes off the field as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be a lot of low A dot stuff. You're gonna see dink and dunk, 5-yard slant to Edelman, a little dump offs to James White. Maybe Hoyer gets lucky and runs one in on a bootleg or something, and then you don't have to stack the Patriots to play Hoyer. But I don't think you need to get carried away there. But I think Edelman and Harry, I mean, one of those guys is probably going to have 6 or 7 catches for 65 yards. I mean, that's just a typical Edelman line, I guess. 6 for 65, maybe he falls into the end zone. But that's kind of where my New England pass catching exposure begins and ends.
How about Damiere Byrd? What's wrong with him?
I suppose, but again, I just with a backup quarterback and all the running backs and the fact that Edelman can catch all those short routes, like I don't know what Bird's path is tonight. But I guess anybody can score a touchdown on a short slate, so you can leave him in your player pool, but I don't have much to him.
Right, but I just don't see stacking Hoyer. Like, if that game goes off, how is he the highest scoring quarterback?
It's probably not happening.
Okay, I just want to admit that's why it's in 3 out of 100. Like that, like what do those lineups even look like? I didn't even look at them. Well, they are disgusting. Yes. Well, you just have to hope, like in those lineups, I'm just hoping like CEH has like a 4 touchdown game, right? It's one of those, and then they're down by 28 points at halftime, and then Hoyer, ends up with 340 meaningless passing yards, and at 5,000, maybe he gets you there.
It could happen.
I mean, of course, everything could happen. Hoyer to Izzo, I got some of those. Hoyer to Izzo, let's do it.
Now that's a deep one.
You got to find those guys.
The Philly guy, the last night's showdown was for the blender builds with the Eagles and the 49ers. Dreadful game. But what's his name? That tight end. There's 2 guys. Travis Fulgham.
Right, he wasn't even in the player pool, so on DK you didn't have to worry about it.
Oh no. Oh, he couldn't break the slate then.
Nope, he didn't. It was a Kittle a captain with no quarterback run back and the opposing defense and the other quarterback. Anytime that it's a lower scoring showdown slate, you could find those wacky non-correlated lineups that win.
A few more, another quarter of Beathard lineup could have gotten there.
Right? Okay, so let's discuss. We discussed kind of like the players. I mean, also, okay, let's talk about the Falcons because we missed them to talk in any extent. I mean, Jones is playing, Gage is playing. They're playing normal. The Falcons are running what we normally know as the Falcons. Julio Jones is now priced underneath Calvin Ridley. Is Julio Jones the number 2 on this team now?
I mean, it's possible with health, but if there's one thing you got to know, it's don't count out Julio Jones against the Packers. The last time these teams played on a Monday night at Lambeau Field, Julio went for 259 yards. He had 180 yards in a playoff game against the Packers a couple years ago. I think he's got 4 120-yard games and 5 career meetings against the Packers. So the Packers have really struggled to cover Julio Jones. And yes, different personnel defensively, whatnot now. But particularly if you're buying into Atlanta being in a negative game script, even at less than 100%, like a 6K Julio Jones on DraftKings, given his history against the Packers and his ability to put up monster lines, you can't just ignore him. That's for sure.
Well, I'm playing mostly Falcon stacks, so I have a ton of Jones, Gage, Ridley. I have all combinations. I think Hayden Hurst is a good leverage play on this slate because so much ownership is going to be on Kelsey. So like Tanyan is one of those guys that I wish was like 2,600 because he's really not. He's really not a pass catching tight end, but it's a short slate, so why not? But Hurst is 4,200. Like, I'm not expecting him to be well owned. He'll be owned. He'll be 20, 25% owned. But double tight end lineups with Kelsey and Hurst, like just try to get different that way. And just stacking Hurst with one of like Jones or Ridley with Ryan. Like from a lineup construction perspective, I read Eric Beimfor's Slate IQ column is free today. If you go to rotogrinders.com, look for it under NFL. He analyzes past slates, and it's all the data, what lineup constructions win, where you could find the leverage, and he mentioned. I was thinking beforehand how I attack these slates is I go super duper stacks, like not just a super stack. Like super stack would be 3+2, right? That's what I consider a super stack. These are my terms, Justin. So like I don't. It's not in the DFS glossary. Uh, Super duper stacks are like 4+2, 4+3. Like you're basically just taking a game and you have like one piece of the other game, because I think it's uncomfortable. People don't do it. They'll do two on a 2-game slate. They'll go Ryan, Gage, Jones, and Aaron Jones and MVS and do something like that. While I'm just like I have some lineups where like I have like Aaron Rodgers with Aaron Jones with Darius Shepard with Robert Tonyan, and then with Brian Hill and Russell Gage and Julio Jones, like just everyone, like that type of build, and hope that like that game goes absolutely nuclear, or they just put up enough points. Like this is not the type of thing you're only picking between 2 games. That if one of those pieces, if Brian Hill has 7 points, he could still be in the winning lineup. It depends on what happens in the other game, right? Because let's say the Chiefs and Patriots game goes 21-6. Like, is the stacks of those games ain't gonna work? I mean, you may only need the one piece because like Sammy Watkins is sitting there with 9.5 points, and it's like I could beat that by someone else. Like, it's not going to be that hard to do. And I just think it, as Eric put out in his analysis, that it's a construction that is used much less than the field.
Which one are you specifically referencing there?
The super duper stacks.
The 4-2?
Yeah, the super stacks, the 4-2s.
Yeah, I mean that's if you look at where the leverage comes in on a lot of these slates, and he kind of went back and looked at like Thanksgiving of last year too with a 3-gamer. You'll see that the leverage score right in the top 0.1% of lineups, only 12% of entries left 5K on the table, but 32% of those lineups were in the top 0.1%, which is a tremendous leverage on the field. So it's uncomfortable to leave some salary on the table, but you can certainly do it. Now, maybe that was a function of how whatever slates he's analyzing played out. There was a cheap guy that scored a couple touchdowns, and that maybe you're thinking, well, that's not going to happen tonight. Well, then good luck getting the right combination. It's just a harder path if CEH and Aaron Jones and Ridley and those are the guys that get all the touchdowns. You've pretty much got to be dead on optimal with everything in order to win. So, not saying you have to leave 5K on the table with all your lineups, but there is some merit to being a little uncomfortable in doing that.
Right. My lowest lineup, I've only spent 44.3, and my highest lineup I've spent 49.7. So it's not like it's all garbage, but all those lineups still make sense. They still go with the super stack type of format. It's just that like maybe the one-offs or the random touchdown is in the stack, and then I'm not playing. Like I see a lineup right here where like I'm not playing Aaron Jones at all. I'm not playing any I'm playing the Packers defense and Brian Hill, and then stacking the Chiefs Patriots game, and that's leaving like over. I'm playing Mahomes, and I'm still, because I'm not playing Tyreek Hill, I'm playing DeMarcus Robinson in that lineup. So it's a lineup that, yes, it's a low probability play, but it's most likely not duplicated. And do I have a shot at the 1 million solo? Like that's, I'm not gonna have all my lineups look like that, but I'm gonna have some, and I'm gonna try to throw them in that $10.
Well, there was a solo winner of like the 100K or whatever it was in the NBA Showdown slate last night because they used Duncan Robinson over Anthony Davis.
Right, which makes
And
why would you ever do that unless
right,
obviously unless it's a blowout and Anthony Davis goes to the locker room or something.
which is I mean, Anthony Davis going to the locker room is more of a high probability item than some things. But sometimes those lineups win, and when they do, you get a person that wins solo for a big score, and a 600-way tie for third place, where everybody's getting $58 out of that group. So it maybe be less dupes tonight because we've got a second game, but there'll still be a lot of people landing on similar lineups.
Right. How are you trying to get unique in your lineups?
No, I like that idea of having some lineups with some money on the table, and quite a few lineups with 2K, 3K on the table, and going with some secondary pass catchers. I like your call with Demarcus Robinson, and Mecole Hardman would be one as well. Sammy Watkins seems to always break these showdown slates, so guys like that. That you can use instead of Tyreek Hill, and you just go, 1-for-1 pivot down from Hill to any of the other Kansas City pass catchers, and you've instantly left $2,500 on the table and, made yourself a little bit different. So I like that thought process tonight.
Another way to get unique, because people don't do it as often, even though it is correlative. It sounds counterintuitive to play the defense against your players. But if you think in terms of how do defenses get ceilings, pick sixes. So when the defense returns a touchdown, what do? They give the ball back to their opponent. So if you have a Packers stack, play the Falcons defense. If you have a Chiefs stack, play the Patriots defense. Like people don't do because they go points allowed, but that doesn't matter in DFS that much. You care about sacks and interceptions and fumble recoveries and blocks, typically resulting in turnovers. And when the team turns the ball over, you're just giving it back to your opponent's offense. So I do have, plenty of Ravens, Falcon stacks with the Packers defense. So it's like I want Ryan, I want 3 pass catchers, I want Aaron Jones and the Packers defense, and I'm just hoping Ryan could throw three interceptions. If 2 of them go for a pick 6, like the Packers offense ain't getting there. We saw that the other time with the Colts-Jets game. Last week? The Colts put up 26 points or whatever. Like Jonathan Taylor can't get there. They're barely on the field. The Jets called more plays that game in a losing situation. So on these 2-game slates with a lot of people, either they don't want to hand build and are like, well, how do I play the defense against my players? Or in optimizers that, you have this max offense versus defense. A lot of times that default setting is 0 and people don't change it. I put mine to 3. Like, give it to me. Like if I have a super stack again, fine, go. Let's go. I want the ball to be in the end zone as many times as possible because I want more offensive plays being called.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, especially if points allowed don't really matter unless the defense is pitching a shutout, and that's rarely happening in the NFL these days. And we don't have any of the offenses on the slate that you would expect to get shut out. Maybe the depleted Patriots, but it's just so rare to see a shutout in the NFL. So on these short little slates, you don't have to be worried that much about not wanting to play any players against your defense.
So if anyone in YouTube has a question, feel free to post it in the chat. We could see it. They're talking amongst themselves, right? They're asking questions amongst themselves. They don't even want to know our answers.
Somebody's posting dollar bills and saying it's a Robinson night.
So it's a Robinson night. I'm not going to do that well. I don't have that much of him. I got him in 3 lineups. I hope not. It seems like he's been losing snaps to everyone else.
Yeah, I mean they're going to spread it out, and last week they got a pretty good lead on Monday night, and heck, maybe they'll do it again. And if that happens, the secondary receivers are going to lose a few snaps, but. I still don't mind targeting them in the event that game stays close.
Travis Kelce's birthday's today. Does that make a dent?
No doubt.
Does that change your exposure? Should I start jamming it?
I mean, not really. I'm kind of a Scrooge, I guess, though, with the birthday narrative. I don't follow it enough, but It doesn't hurt anything.
Okay, so plays and fades for what you're doing because I have my lineups already in, so I have my exposures. I'm playing 100 lineups, 60 in the milli, and 20 in the 220 maxes. Uh, who are your highest compared to ownership? Highest exposed players that you're over on, and ones that you're under on.
Yeah, so I'm over on all of the Kansas City secondary pass catchers, Hardman, Watkins, maybe not as much on Robinson. I like Julio, given his history against the Packers. I'll be over on him, and under on Tyreek Hill for the reasons we discussed earlier. That's kind of my wide receiver ups and downs. I do like Hurst a good bit at tight end as well. And the running backs, I mean, it's hard to get different at the top just because there aren't any other than Jones and Edwards-Helaire. So it's hard to be different outside of, maybe leaving them off of some lineups. But I do like James White in tournaments. We've seen games where the Patriots fall behind and he can go catch 8, 9, 10 passes. So I don't mind him as a tournament play. Overweight a little bit on him.
Right. For me, I'm way over on Russell Gage. I mean, he fits. I'm playing super stacks, so I mean, I have a lot of Falcons, so I'm over on all the Falcons pretty much. I'm over on Robert Tanyan and Hayden Hurst because I'm under on Kelsey. I'm under on the Chiefs, other than CEH, because he makes the most sense in a game where it's the Chiefs don't score that many points. Probably it's CEH that's the high scorer amongst them. So I'm under on Kelsey. I'm under on Hill. I mean, I still have them plenty. I still have Kelsey in 46% of my lineups. It just I don't have him in 66 or 70% of my lineups. I'm over the field and on the secondary Packers guys such as Shepard, Malik Taylor, Sternberger, Irvin, like those guys, the creative player guys on the Packers. I'm under on Gurley, over on Hill, but it doesn't take much to be over on Brian Hill. I'll probably be a little bit under on Hardman and Robinson, but I'm also under on a lot of the other. It's not like I'm under on Hill and then over on Hardman. It's just that the Chiefs I'm under on more because I'm just if you're super stacking the Falcons Packers game, it just takes up most of your slots in your lineup. So my Chiefs and Patriots exposure is going to be low, and I'm way under on Burkhead. Burkhead I have in 5 lineups. If he's going to be 30% owned and he beats me, then so be it. I wish he's 30% owned because I think with James White back, like it's going to be a 4-headed backfield, and White's going to be on the field more than any of them, and it's just not going to be worth it. But I'm not even bothering with Harris or Taylor or any of those guys, and if they beat me, I mean, I got Ryan Izzo in 3 lineups, so like I'd rather play Ryan Izzo. I'd rather play the other tight end. Who's there? The CC guy, whatever. I don't even remember his name. Right? I'd rather even play the second tight end before I play the running backs, only because I think the tight end position is going to be just so jammed with Kelsey. The running back position is going to be jammed with CEH and Jones also. But still, I'd rather play, if I'm not going to play Jones, I'll play Jamal Williams or Tyler Irvin. If I'm not going to play CEH in that spot, I'll play Brian Hill or something. Like, there are better plays than to take a guy that may only get 3 carries or something like that. So that's how I'm being different. If the Chiefs Patriots game goes and blows up, then I probably don't have many lineups that have a chance. But you never know; it could happen.
Somebody does have a 2v2 question for their DraftKings GPP. Shepard, Kelsey, or MVS and Russell Gage?
Well, it depends on who you have in the lineup. I always say that when it comes to if you don't show me a lineup of the contest that it's in, from a projection standpoint, it would probably be MVS and Gage. But I mean, they're close. I mean, if you're playing like if you're playing like a cash lineup on DraftKings, you're playing Kelsey in the tight end spot. Like you're not unless you're playing 2 tight ends. But I mean, from a cash game perspective, you're playing CH, you're playing Aaron Jones, you're playing Kelsey. Like everything else could be debated, right? I'm playing Ryan, but I mean, if you want to play Mahomes, I mean, the constructions could be whatever. But I think the staples in your lineup are Kelsey, Jones, and CH. I mean, is there anyone else that you would consider to be like you have to have them in your lineup if you're playing like double ups?
Um, no, I mean I think MVS is probably close just because his salary is super cheap. Otherwise, I think it's Jones, CEH, MVS, all the acronyms, and Kelsey.
Big Dong says Tanyan outscores Kelsey on his birthday, no less.
I mean, the Packers have no pass catchers, and Tanyan is nothing special, but he's probably going to get some red zone targets by virtue of the process of elimination and there not being anybody else. And I suppose that's a little bit unfair. Tanyan's been pretty good the first few games compared to expectations, but he's going to have a role tonight for sure. I don't know if I'd say he's going to outscore Kelsey with confidence, but it wouldn't shock me if it happened.
I know we didn't talk about Showdown because the main slate is the 2-gamer, but on the late Atlanta Green Bay Showdown slate, like construction standpoint, like to me, I think the you're either playing Aaron Jones in the captain or you're playing a Falcons pass catcher in the cap. I mean that would be like that would make the most sense. Either Aaron Jones gets there or the Packers production gets spread out enough that you'd rather have Julio or Ridley and have one of those guys go off for 100 plus yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean I don't mind that. I think you could play MVS there as well, given their his salary and their lack of weapons, particularly if you're doing a lineup where you're leaving some salary on the table. But I think the most logical are Aaron Jones, Ridley, and Julio, and of course the quarterbacks.
What happens? Okay, what happens if we get like a surprise at 7:30 Eastern because it's a 9 o'clock game? Tricked you. Devontae Adams is playing.
I mean, it could happen. If you got salary on the table, you can pivot. Lineups where you got a bunch of salary left on the table, you can use some of that up. So I don't mind that idea of having an opening there. And MVS will still be okay. I mean, even if Adams plays, but if Adams is in, that affects the viability of the tight ends. It affects Shepard. It affects Malik Taylor. So, those are the guys you'd have to worry about. I still don't see anything. I just looked now. Nothing definitive yet.
Kirk Swenson in the YouTube chat asks, because it's a 2-game slate, is it worth figuring out who the kick returners are that also play on offense, then correlate that with the defense to double dip?
The double dip. I mean, it's so rare these days. Kickoffs rarely get returned. A punt.
Duvernay did it in that Showdown slate. Didn't he return a kick?
Yeah, it was last Monday. I mean, it
happened. Just happened. It has to happen again now.
Then the Ravens erased that by giving up about 6,000 points. I mean, it's not something I usually do in this day and age of the NFL. You get so many fewer kicks returned than there were, 6-7 years ago that it's become a lost art.
Yeah, but if you're going to do that on this slate, it would be like McCole Hardman, right? Like, because he's on the field enough that that you could play him normally, even if he wasn't returning kicks. He's still a play. And then the Chiefs' defense is going to be the most owned defense. So if you have Hardman and the Chiefs, and then you get a return touchdown, great. But I mean, I'm not going out of my way. Like I didn't set a
Tyler Ervin returns kicks for the Packers. There you go.
Okay, yeah, that's what I should be doing. Yeah, I didn't go out of my way. I don't even compute it. I barely even know who the kick returners are.
Yeah, I don't know them all either. That's why I went and looked at. Ervin did return a couple kicks last week. So
how about the Falcons? Who returns kicks for the Falcons?
Processing here. Looks like Brandon Powell is their primary kick and punt returner.
Yeah, and he never sees the field, so that's all he's going to do.
Yeah, that's a no-go.
And the Patriots? I know Edelman returns punts, right, or something like that.
He did. Yeah, I don't know if because he's older now, if he's still doing that or not. It looks like J.J. Taylor had their only punt return last week. But again, you're not doing that just to do it. Um, the odds of a kick return are so low in the NFL these days with the prevalence of touchbacks and good punters that it's difficult to plan around that.
Someone in the chat is okay. I don't even know what this question means. Doesn't make sense to play Rodgers tonight unless Adam plays. No, it's what we're talking about is that if Adams was on the slate, he'd be the most highest owned wide receiver, right? I mean, like if we knew right now that Devontae Adams was playing, like you jamming him. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about Tyreek Hill or any of these guys. Like he would be the number one play at wide receiver, right?
Yes, everybody would be playing Adams.
Right. So if you want to play for that angle, and I do have some of those vomit lineups. Hey, I'm looking at this lineup right now. Let's see. I got a lineup. Okay, no, there's too many people from the first game. No, I got it. I got a lineup with 44 left on the table. I had 6,000 on the table, and Russell Gage in the flex. Like I could easily just turn that into Devontae Adams, right?
And still have salary.
And still have salary. I have Darius Shepard in the flex. I could turn that one into. So I have a bunch of lineups in case that happens. And by the way, if that does happen, I will switch to Devontae Adams in as many lineups as I could. Like I will rearrange lineups to get him in because you got two things. One, if he plays, he's the best wide receiver option he's one of the best plays on the slate. And number two, if it comes after lock, like people don't late swap enough. So like he's going to be, even if he's in, he's going to be underowned. So like I'll get as much of it as I'll be in. If whatever that comes out, if I can get him in 90% of my lineups, based on, what I used in the first game, that is what I'll do. But I'm just going to assume he's not. I mean, and that doesn't seem like a cryptic tweet to me. It seemed like he was just pissed off that they were going to make him inactive, and then the PR department, once they saw it, said, no, you got to take that down. But they can't. But they're not. They don't announce inactives until 90 minutes before the game. So I just don't see. The thing I don't understand is that after that tweet, why didn't Falcons PR just say that he's going to be inactive? Why don't they just say it right then?
Yeah, well, maybe they didn't want him to tweet it because they were trying to play gamesmanship with the Falcons and make the Falcons think that he was playing. So
how much time do you need for that? So it's not 90 minutes before the game. Now it's 6 hours before the game. Does it matter that much?
Well, they're showing workouts on the field right now. Jamal Williams is doing some juking and jiving, but that's no word on Adams from what I've seen just yet.
Central Supply asks, since you're stacking Blender, are you setting groups on the running backs, only 2 max or 1 from the same team? I'm personally doing 1 max. I still think you could play Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams together. I think that's, or 2 of the Packers running. You could. You'll be unique that way. But the lineups that I'm building just don't really fit those bills. It may be something I could swap onto. In the lineups that I have Jamal Williams, I have no Aaron Jones. It is a negative correlation typically, at least for touchdowns. So the only reason you do that is to be more unique. I believe I'm being unique enough in my lineups that I don't have to make those lineups. So that's the caveat. I'm answering kind of yes and no, that it's viable. But since I'm super stacking and playing kind of a little weird guys here and there, that I don't think I have to then also play Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones together.
I mean, Central Supply asking you a question. That feels like a business account. You forgot to switch over from the business account to the DFS account, but that's okay.
What do you think of Bill O'Brien getting canned?
Good luck to the next guy or gal in there. I mean, they've lost so many draft picks. They handed DeAndre Hopkins away. You got a good young quarterback, but it's going to take some time to rebuild the cupboard. I mean, it's been emptied by him over the last couple years with some questionable decisions and some trades, and it's not going to be pretty.
Right. The report before last game was saying that Bill O'Brien's going to take over more of the play calling, and they go out and they almost get. I mean, they came back, but they lost. And then they go out and they're down like 3 scores and they're still running the ball. And then he comes out after the game saying, yeah, I don't think we ran the ball enough. And I'm like, Like, when is this guy going to get out of here? And then then 4 hours later, get out of here. But Romeo Crennel's in now, so it's not like that's going to change much.
I mean, I would have put some pretty good money down on Gase being the first guy getting fired, but here we are.
Gase he'll stay as the coach. Belichick will be fired before him at this rate. How does that guy still have a job?
I have no idea. He's got some dirt on somebody.
Okay. So any final questions before we get out of here? The slate locks at 7:05. Do a nice little 45-minute show. It's 2 games. How much can we talk about? We have Grinders Live, and it's like 13 MLB games, and you can still fit it in. How much can we talk about 2 games? Is there anything else that we missed?
I think we've hit on most of it.
What lineup would Bill O'Brien play tonight?
He'd leave $15K on the table
and play all the running back. He'd try to jam in as many running backs as possible.
Jam in all the running backs. But then, even if he was still calling the plays, he wouldn't give the ball to the guys that he played. So, good riddance, sir.
Okay, so as I always say, since I'm playing in the millie, I'm playing that $10 millie on DraftKings. So I want to win before you guys. So if Cards, are you playing that also?
Yes.
Okay.
So
how many lineups do you got in?
Choice. I have about 50 in there.
Okay, and I got 60 in there. So I wish whoever's watching comes in 111th place. So that's the amount of luck that I'm going to wish you.
Yeah, we're going to hit the first 110 places, no ties.
Right. Now you're going to tie with me because you don't care about duplication as much. So maybe you tie with a couple of my lineups, but I'll get the uniques. I'll win the million, and then. But if I don't, you can, and then I'll come in second. We'll duplicate. We'll get 500,000 each. How about that? We'll split that, and at that point, I don't care who comes in third. So then the YouTube people, they can come in third. So it's better than 111. So I don't mind if you beat most of my lineups. If you beat 59 of my lineups and 49 of Justin's lineups, perfectly fine. I always have to give that caveat because they've had good luck in your contest. I can't say that. I don't want them to have good luck. I want me to have good luck first.
Good luck coming third.
Right. So good luck coming in third. This has been the Monday Showdown Live on RotoGrinders.com.